When you smile, the morning breaks twice, once above the rooftops and once inside my chest. It is a light that has nothing to do with the sun, a radiance that begins behind your lips and travels across the quiet distance between us, until I forget that I am supposed to be composed, royal, measured. The world expects me to be a figure carved from discipline and duty, but when you smile, I am a girl again, barefoot in the gardens of Laeken, chasing a breeze that smells like lilac and memory. You have a way of undoing the careful seams of my restraint. When I first saw you, I thought you were another ordinary moment in a series of official encounters. A handshake, a polite nod, another practiced smile. But you looked up, and in that glance something familiar stirred, as though I had been waiting for that exact expression all my life. The court around me blurred, the laughter, the etiquette, the measured gestures. All of it dissolved, and what remained was a single spark of recognition. I did not know what to call it then, but now I do. It was the beginning of my heart choosing you. Sometimes I wonder how you do it, how you speak so quietly and yet leave such resonance behind. I listen to the rhythm of your words, the pauses that fall like petals, and I find my thoughts slowing to meet them. The world that usually races ahead of me, filled with obligations, expectations, futures already planned, seems to wait when you are near. You make time behave differently. I want to live inside that difference, that pause, that gentle distortion of the ordinary. When you smile, I remember that I am not only a symbol, not only a promise made by history to the future. I am a person who feels too much, who blushes too easily, who writes your name in the margins of her notebooks, as if writing could summon you. I think of you when I walk through the long corridors of the palace. The portraits of my ancestors watch from the walls, dignified and silent, but sometimes I imagine they too understand, that even they once felt the tremor of something that could not be contained by duty. Your smile is my rebellion. It is the softest defiance I know, one that needs no proclamation. It is enough to remember the curve of your mouth when I face a crowd, when I speak of progress and promise. Behind my public words, there is always that private music playing. Your laughter, your quiet confidence, the way your eyes soften when you listen. I have learned that love is not always loud. It can be a quiet unfolding, like a letter written and sealed but never sent, carried close to the heart. That is what you are to me. The secret I wear beneath the silk of my composure. When I stand in front of cameras, when I bow, when I smile for the world, a part of me is always turned toward you. Sometimes, in the stillness before dawn, I imagine your hand in mine. I imagine what it would feel like to walk beside you without the invisible walls of expectation. I imagine a life where I could say your name freely, where love was not an echo hidden behind protocol, and then I breathe and reality folds itself neatly again. But the imagining lingers, warm and steady, like a candle that refuses to go out. You once told me that happiness was made of moments, not monuments. I did not understand then, because my life has always been built around the monumental, history, lineage, ceremony. But now I think I do. Happiness is the moment when you turn your head slightly and your smile meets mine. It is the fleeting brush of your sleeve as we pass. It is the silence that falls between us and feels complete. When you smile, I forget the geometry of loneliness. I forget the weight of my name, the balance I must keep between heart and heritage. You remind me that love is not a weakness, but a kind of courage. The courage to see beyond the scripted life and reach for something true. I write this knowing that perhaps you will never read it, that it will remain locked among other words I have written in secret. But still I write, because writing you is a way of keeping you close. Each word feels like a step toward you, though I know the distance will never quite close. Yet even distance can be a kind of tenderness when it is filled with memory. There is a bench in the gardens where I sometimes sit alone. The roses there bloom later than the rest, as if shy. I watch the petals unfold and think of your smile doing the same, slow, deliberate, full of quiet joy. The gardeners pass by and nod. They do not know that I am listening to the echo of your laughter instead of the birds. I have met people from every corner of the world, each carrying their own dreams, their own longing. But no face, no voice has stayed with me like yours. You have a way of making the ordinary sacred. The simplest gesture, your hand brushing against a table, your eyes meeting mine in a crowded room, becomes a ceremony of its own. When I travel, I look for you in every sky. In Vienna, the air smelled like the music of your laughter. In Oslo, the snow felt like your silence. In Paris, I caught the reflection of your kindness in the sign. Every place reminds me of what is absent, and yet, somehow, that absence feels alive, breathing, shimmering. I do not need grand declarations. I do not need promises that strain under the weight of forever. All I want is the truth that lives in your smile. That moment when the world becomes soft and possible, when I see in you everything I could ever hope for. You once said that love to you was like the sea, vast, untamed, impossible to own. I think of that often. If you are the sea, then I am the shore, waiting, touched again and again by waves I cannot keep. Yet I would not wish to be anywhere else. To be near your tide is enough. Sometimes I am afraid of how much I feel, afraid of what it might cost. But then I remember that fear is only love's shadow, and when you smile, even the shadow disappears. You are not perfect, you can be stubborn, lost in thought, too quick to retreat into silence, but I love those flaws as one loves the texture of a familiar stone. The unevenness that proves it is real. Perfection has no warmth. Your imperfection is what makes you human, and it is your humanity that draws me like a tide. When you smile, I feel seen, not as a daughter, not as a princess, not as a symbol, but as a woman with her own pulse, her own dreams, her own fragile hopes. You see the person behind the posture, the one who sometimes hides her trembling hands in the folds of her dress. And in that seeing, I find strength. If I could give you anything, it would be the calm that your presence gives me. It is a calm unlike any other, the kind that settles not over silence but through it, a harmony that lingers even when we are apart. There are evenings when I play the piano alone. The notes wander, uncertain, until they find the melody that reminds me of you. Music is a strange language. It says everything without needing to speak. When I play, I am talking to you. Each chord is a confession, each pause a breath that holds your name. I think about the future sometimes, not the one written in speeches and ceremonies, but the one where you and I exist quietly, without witness. A cottage near the sea, perhaps, where the wind smells of salt and the walls remember laughter. I would wake before dawn, just to see the first light touch your face. That is the dream I never tell. When you smile, the world feels both infinite and contained. It is a paradox I do not wish to solve. I would rather live within it, trusting that love does not need to be understood to be true. There are moments when I ache with missing you. It comes unexpectedly, in the middle of a conversation, or when I hear someone say your name by accident. But even the ache is precious. It means that what we shared, however quiet, is real. Sometimes I think of what you once said, that we are made of moments stitched together by memory. If that is true, then every moment I have with you is a thread of gold woven through my days. Even if we never meet again, you are part of the fabric of my being. When I speak before others, I often use words like duty, unity, progress. But in my heart, I whisper another word, your name. It is my compass, my silent vow, my small prayer to the universe that somehow, somewhere, if I could freeze a single instant, it would be that moment when you turned to me and smiled under the falling leaves. The light was soft, the air fragile. I remember thinking that happiness might be nothing more than that. Two people standing close enough to share the same breath, saying nothing, because everything that mattered was already understood. When you smile, I find myself believing again, in kindness, in beauty, in the quiet resilience of love. The world can be harsh, history can be heavy, but your smile is proof that gentleness survives. There will come a day when I must walk ahead, when the crown and the country will ask more of me than I think I can give. On that day, I will remember this: the warmth of your eyes, the curve of your mouth, the peace that your presence gave me. And I will know that love, once real, never truly leaves. It becomes part of who we are, shaping us silently, like the tide shapes the shore. When you smile, you remind me that even a princess is allowed to dream. You remind me that love is not an indulgence but a gift, not forbidden, but sacred. You remind me that my heart belongs not to history, but to the simple, unguarded moments that make life human. So I will keep this feeling close, folded into the quiet spaces of my days. I will carry it like a secret jewel, unseen but luminous. And when I stand before the world, smiling my practiced smile, know that beneath it lives another, the one you taught me, the one that began with you. When you smile, I remember who I am. Not a title, not a promise, just a woman who loved, and was changed forever by love's soft light. And that is enough.